Well, hello. Well, this is about take. I don't know which take now. Not because I've been messing up the video, but because of running out of time. So I'm going to try to condense this a little bit. And I also deleted some files from my device here. Apparently, there's just not a lot of room on it. We're doing the best we can here at the Amputee with our limited resources to bring you some content. But it's good to see everybody again. I know it's been a while. I always catch myself apologizing for taking too long to put out something. I'm just going to be very honest. I've been going through a lot with moving. I started up a relationship with somebody for a while that was pretty intense, and that's just for the record now kind of over. Beautiful person, beautiful time, just wasn't the right time for me at least. Our lifestyles didn't match up. Intro music, that's why I picked the song Changes. It's about a, best I can tell, a relationship that's over and just changes in life in general. So that applies for my move and for what I was telling you about there. Good cut. It's Black Sabbath, actually. As far as I know, the slowest Black Sabbath song out there. Definitely the only one I know that doesn't have any type of percussion on it. Just some piano and a little bit of synthesizer there. This is from the 70s, this cut. So compared to the bulk of their material, pretty different. I like the song a lot. Ozzy and different versions of Black Sabbath they've released. At least one or two different versions of this over the years, because it is such a great song. But this is the original as far as I know. So how is everybody? I hope good. If you want to look that up, Changes, Black Sabbath, you can YouTube it, or your favorite music application there. I'm sure you can find it. Great cut. Definitely one of my favorite songs by them. I'm not a huge fan of the band. They've always been pretty dark. That song's dark, I guess, as well, in certain ways. But changes are what we go through in life. So I'm going to start this off how I start all these off. I'm going to try to be brief here because, like I said, I've been running out of time on these videos. Getting to my point, and then it's happened a couple times. I'm going to start this off like I always do with a positive affirmation drink. I've got my coffee here. I'll give you a minute to get your drink. How this happens is I do a little countdown from 3, 2, 1, and then say attitude is everything, and take a little, kind of like a toast. It is my belief that your daily, heck, hourly, weekly, monthly, yearly outlook on life really dictates how good things, how pleasant your life can be, and how good it can be for other people. I think if you're a positive person and you try to display that as best you can every day, different days are different, but if we just do our best, you may, for one, you're going to feel better, I think, and you're definitely going to make it more pleasant for other people in your life. Once again, I apologize about talking about our limited resources here. I apologize about this camera angle. It is horrible to get myself in the video. I had to kind of slant the camera a little bit. This makeshift tripod I got going on is not the best in the world. Okay, so I hope you've gotten your drink. I've got a very interesting subject today to talk about. Maybe that's why I've had a hard time squeezing everything in. So let's, on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, attitude is everything. Black coffee, awesome. Can you feel the power, the vibes, the powerful energy? I hope so. So today's subject is communication with your prosthetist. A very complex and important subject. Through my years of working with prosthetic companies, working with different patients, and working with different prosthetists, I've seen a lot of different styles and how this collaboration works. But I've also seen a lot of frustration from prosthetists. And I've even heard a couple of prosthetists say that they think patients lie to them. That's very alarming to me. I always try to think the best of people. And I think maybe their definition of lie might be a little different. I think if you're very direct about it, I think a lot of us lie to people. And what I mean to that is even people in our life, people we have relationships with, people we have friends with, we may not always be 100% honest with them because we don't want to hurt their feelings, or we feel like if we are, they may take that, they may get hurt by that and say something hurtful to us, even though that wasn't our intent. And I think you know what I mean by that. And I think the same thing can happen with your prosthetist. Prosthetist being the person that makes and fits your prosthesis. So that can be a challenge. Why are some of the reasons? Well, I think they're some of the very same reasons that we do it in life to other people, with other people. And I don't call it lying. I call it more of a communication barrier. We don't want to make people feel uncomfortable or unpleasant. So what happens is, no matter where you're at in your life as an amputee, you're brand new, you've had a prosthetic maybe for a year or two, or you're a veteran and you've been an amputee for a long time. There's depending on type of personality you have and that sort of thing, it may be hard to give good feedback to your prosthetist. Typically what happens is they fit the leg and they're like, okay, so how does it feel? Well, for some people, if they're new, they don't know what they're supposed to be feeling. For other people, especially type A personality people, even if it hurts a little bit, they don't want to admit it because they're tough. They'll work through it. They'll wear it for a couple days and it's going to feel better. And then you can get the other extreme of people, and this is where it can get really frustrating, where they don't feel anything you do makes it right. And this can get into a bad cycle of making another prosthetic for them, making a third one, doing all kinds of adjustments, trying different feet, all things that you should do to try to fix something, but where the person just is never satisfied. So those are three aspects of a relationship that has many, many, many more aspects on it, but I'm going to touch on these three because I think they're pretty common. The first thing we talked about, not giving good feedback because you're worried about hurting the prosthetist's feelings or whatever. I don't think that's the case. They want to know. And this can also fall into line with, well, you know, they're the expert. They're watching me walk. They should know what's going on. And a lot of times they do, and they will ask these questions like, hey, does it feel too tall? Does it feel too short? Are you rolling over good enough in your step? Because they do see that, and it's important for you to be honest with them on that. Once again, it is tough to do a 20, 30, maybe if you're lucky, hour-long visit with a prosthetist and know what you're feeling, because that prosthetic may feel very different in a couple of days once you've been wearing it. So I think all these can be reasons why it's tough to give good feedback. But, and another one, you know, so you're like, well, they're the expert, they should know what's going on. And they do most of the time. But they ask you questions to confirm that. So you should be as honest as you can with them. If it does hurt, you should tell the person. There's things they can do right there on the spot to try to make it feel better. And maybe the first thing they do doesn't work. That doesn't mean they still can't do it. So you really shouldn't take home a prosthetic that hurts. And hoping that it's going to feel better later. That's a bad thing. I've been guilty of doing this myself, especially in my early years as a patient. I was so happy to walk. It didn't hurt bad, but it hurt some. but I just wanted it to, because I was so grateful to walk. Once again, I didn't really know what I was feeling. I was like, well, maybe there is a little bit of pain involved with the good with the prosthetic. A good fitting prosthesis, and I tell people this all the time, should not be painful. It should feel like your leg is being squeezed. And what happens is there's different pressure points depending on the type of socket they make for you. And hopefully there's enough pressure points and they're squeezing hard enough that it distributes the weight through all those pressure points and you don't feel pain or discomfort. It should just feel like you're being squeezed around your limb. If you're feeling pain on the very end of your leg, that's definitely an issue. You really need to say something. Like I said, some people, oh, well, I'm tough. I'll work it out. I'll make it better. You're setting yourself up to bruise your bone, possibly, for blisters and all kinds of good stuff. And you may very well get used to it, but it shouldn't hurt. You should definitely be leaving there with it feeling as comfortable as possible. So those are some reasons, I think, why the communication barrier can be tough. Now I'm going to get into the other part with patients who just don't seem to be satisfied no matter what. And I think all these things can be frustrating to the patient and to the prosthetist. Now the internet can be a little bit to blame for this. There's so many good things about the internet because you can look up different types of prosthetics and activities that people are doing and that sort of thing, but that can also be very bad. We get certain patients that look up different things on the internet and they see the latest, often this is very common, they see the latest, greatest trend, a certain type of socket, these adjustable sockets, certain type of foot that's the trendy foot out there. You name it, different types of knees, hydraulics, all this different stuff. And a lot of it ends up standing the test of time, but a lot of it is just the flavor of the month, and it's FOMO, fear of missing out. Another reason, you may meet somebody who is pretty active and they tell you, man, this leg is great, I like this foot, and you want that for yourself. Well, everybody's different. What works for them may be different for you. It's just like different cars, different retirement plans, different food. All of us are individuals, and different diets. You get on the internet and try to look up a good diet. Boy, talk about frustrating getting bad information. Well, it's the same thing with prosthetics. There's so many different things, and there's a lot of marketing campaigns out there. And I'm not saying you shouldn't try some of this stuff, but your prosthetist often knows or has an idea of what's a fad and what may not be appropriate for you. I can go into somebody's room and tell them that I want that I wear a vacuum or suction and that I have this certain type of foot and it's awesome. Well, that's not really, and they should get it, that's not good advice to somebody, because there may be age differences, there may be activity level differences, they may be more active or less active than me. So there may be something that fits them better or works for them better. They may have different type of skin issues going on, so maybe a different type of suspension besides suction is better for them. There's all these different variables. So I think you just get back to some patients, and I like I said, we're all different, who think that they want it to be as good as their leg was. And I'm going to be very honest with you, at least at this point in time, there's not a prosthetic out there that's going to be 100% or replace a real human leg. We can get a good fit and make sure you get around, and it can help you with your activities in life. But to my knowledge, there is no leg out there, no socket, no knee that is as good as the human anatomy. Maybe one of these days we'll get closer, but right now it's not even close, and I can just tell you that. So my advice would be to any patient is we start with the socket, and that's the part that goes around your leg. No matter if you're above the knee or below the knee, the part that your residual limb fits into. that's got to fit good. That has to be good. If that doesn't work, I don't care how fancy the foot is. I don't care what technology you're using. If you don't have a good foot, it's not going to work. That being said, if you have some technology that's not great, you have a wooden foot for whatever reason, or whatever the case may be, because your insurance or it's very basic, you're still going to probably do very well because you've got a good fitting socket. So often your activity, well, not often, every time, your activity level and your insurance dictate what type of feet and what type of prosthetic you get. Now there's other options. You can try to pay more money for a certain style of leg, and all of that, but you know, insurance is only going to, and they're expensive, as I'm sure many of you know. So unfortunately, insurance can dictate what type of prosthetic you're eligible for. But you got to be realistic about your expectations also. Just because you have a basic prosthetic, my prosthetics, I like them basic. It's less stuff to go wrong. I don't have to worry about fancy things going out, less parts to break down. My motorcycle's the same way. I have a light, a brake, I have a headlight. I don't have a high beam or a low beam, and I've got obviously a what they call a running light, and I've got a brake light. Those are the only lights I don't have a speedometer. I like my stuff just very basic and functional. It's less stuff to go wrong, and I hold that principle to a lot of my things in life that I have. I'm a very simple, basic person. I just believe in stability and efficiency over fancy, latest, greatest things. And if you're a person that's the other end of the spectrum, that's fine as well. But we got to make sure it works for you. What did I hear? That the aqueducts that they built back in the Roman times, you know, those still function. They were built so well that they're still in use in certain parts of Europe and whatnot, from what I've been told. So just because something's basic doesn't mean it wasn't designed good. And just because something seems so great because it's the latest, greatest technology, that doesn't mean that it's good. It could be just a fad, or it could be just not for you and your activity level. So you've got to be aware of all that. So I think I'm going to leave everything at that. My best advice when you're talking with and working with your prosthetist is to do your best to give honest feedback. And I know it's tough. Like I said, I've had more and more of them tell me, hey, you're not going to hurt my feelings if you are honest with me. So you got to keep that in mind. They're doing their best to try to get your feedback. Now that I didn't address the other end of this, before I close out here, there are some prosthetists out there that they think they know everything. They put the same foot on everybody. They put the same knee, and they make the same type of socket for people. And they just not open to new technologies and all that. And that can be bad too. You can be on the other end of that. So you got to be aware of that. Because not the same, like I said, everybody's individual. A prosthetist is kind of like, they should have your best interest. And sometimes if you have, we were talking about insurance, if you have good insurance, they may try to put you in something that may not be the best for you, but it pays better. So you've got to be aware of that part of it as well. Like I said, it's a very complex issue. All I can say is, as I've said before, just with my positive affirmation drink, we should all do our best to be as positive as possible, not and pleasant as possible, but also to be open and communicate with people well. We don't want to be there's polite ways to tell somebody that you're not pleased with something that they're doing, or that something's just not working for you. Because prosthetists will throw out ideas out there, and sometimes they don't work. There's nothing wrong with going back to the drawing board and trying something else. Well, I'm gonna get off this video. It is so good. It's like I said, took me a while to get back on here. I had to move and just get settled in, but so we'll try to make these videos more regular. I hope everyone is having a great time. hope you have a great upcoming week. And remember, attitude is everything. One more thing. If you have any questions or want more feedback about this subject or any other subject that I might be able to help with related to prosthetics, please contact me. My phone number, 941-284-4651. You can text me or call me. Text is probably the best for the initial visit because I'm sometimes busy. I will get back to you. And if it's a number I don't know, I may not be as inclined to answer it. Or you can email me at my Yahoo account, which is ty_s_wilson@yahoo.com. I will put those addresses and number at the bottom of the video here. Please reach out if there is anything that just a question or anything you think I can be helpful with. I wish everybody the best. Take care.